Well, here's a few news stories, and this one here I thought was fun. This is a AI-generated beer commercial. And you know, the Republican Party just had an AI-generated response to Biden's campaign announcement, which was similar. And the thing that's funny about this, of course, is that it's ridiculous. Like, they're drinking this, what the hell is she drinking out of? And this guy, what is that thing? A thing held backwards? And what is she doing? People sucking beer out of the middle of the can and stuff. And this is what you tend to get out of AI. It's bizarre hallucinations of just things thrown together as if they were thrown together by a machine that doesn't even understand what they're supposed to look like. So a lot of people are freaking out about AI, but it clearly has some defects still. Anyway, another thing that seems to be getting debunked is, let me just get this out of the way, is quantum computing. A researcher has concluded that most of the applications that we're worried about, such as breaking cryptography and other large ones, are not going to work because they would involve input-output, and the input-output is going to be the rate-limiting factor. And he claimed that even if we assume we have a quantum system with 10,000 error-correcting qubits, which is many years away, it would still be inferior to a single GPU in realistic applications. So that's interesting. There's also people saying we won't have quantum computers that can really crack cryptography for 30 years anyway. So that's interesting information. AI is certainly the opposite. We already have machine learning that can do stuff, and they're coming up really fast. So they now have an RSV vaccine, the first one ever. Previous trials of previous attempts to make an RSV vaccine sent a bunch of people to the hospital. It made them very sick. It took them many years to develop it. RSV is a respiratory infection, sort of like the cold, sort of like COVID. It's been around for a long time, and it's not much of a risk for normal adults, but it's a big risk for infants and for old people. And now they have a vaccine for those cases. So I thought it was interesting because I might be a candidate. Anyway, PaperCut is some kind of product used by a lot of enterprise companies. I've never used it, and I have only a dim idea what it is. Let me see if I can get any clue what it is. PaperCut, print management software. Boy, no wonder I don't care. I quit using printers years ago. But anyway, it's apparently used by a lot of companies, and it has a horrible vulnerability, and a lot of people are getting attacked with ransomware and other attacks through the vulnerability, and they put out an update, and the update is not good enough, and there's now a public proof of concept that will punch through the update. So this company, anyway, so if your company is using PaperCut, you better really watch it, because it seems like they're getting taken down right and left, and the so-called patches are not working. All right. This I was very surprised at. Now, like everybody else, has been in computing for a few years. I used to use mechanical hard drives. Haven't used them in years. Everything I use now runs off SSDs, but they seem to last for a while. But these guys claim they typically fail in under 3 years. Of course, these are the enterprise-level hard drives, but they had took track of thousands of them. 17,000 drives, 72 different models, and they found that they would typically fail in 2 years and 7 months. And so they thought maybe that was not good enough, so they did another study with an even larger data set, and again found about 2 years is what it takes for them to fail. So that's very surprising. Of course, I think that's in data center use where it's constantly spinning. It may be that it's longer for home users where your machine is not on all the time or something. But anyway, that's pretty terrible. I don't know how much it matters to normal users. I don't know how many people are still using mechanical hard drives. But I guess there are people with large hard drive clusters. And I don't know what they claim the mean time between failure is, but yeah, I think it's supposed to be a lot longer than 2 years, but apparently that is not true in practice. I would think we would have noticed this years ago if it was true. I'm not quite sure what to make of this claim. Here, let me get my monitor going here so I can see if there are comments in the chat. Okay, anyway, so yet another scandal about Clarence Thomas. This is about the fourth one in a week. This guy is incredibly corrupt, taking bribes right and left. He took $500,000 vacations with his wife. His wife was hired and paid by the same donor. His mother's house was bought and offered to her rent-free by the same donor, and now his children, their tuition, their expensive private school tuition, is paid by the same donor. So he is absolutely bought and paid for by this one Republican billionaire, and that's why he always pushes hard right policies on everything. And I think now the whole Supreme Court seems to be shot this way. We seem to have a 6-seat, absolutely corrupt right-wing majority, which is also true at the legislative, state and federal Republican Party in America now, that they are completely bought and sold by billionaires, so they no longer represent the people. For example, something like 70% of Republicans want gun control, they want things like red flag laws, and they want abortion laws that permit abortion, and the Republican Party everywhere is pushing the opposite because they only serve their mega donors. Anyway, it's appalling to watch our government suffering under corruption, but it certainly has happened before. And they just had a hearing on Capitol Hill to try to discuss the ethics of the Supreme Court, and the Chief Justice refused to even show up, saying, "You have no right to even talk to me about it." And I think as these ProPublica is doing amazing work. As these scandals get worse and worse, there will be some level of pressure at which they actually have to admit that they have failed. And we actually have to enforce some ethics on the Supreme Court. All right. Anyway, people are using artificial intelligence to create images, like that glorious video you saw. And there's a developer complaining that they should take images from real people, even though the images from AI are cheaper, because the AI is mostly just plagiarizing off images that real people put up anyway. I think this kind of protest is useless, in my opinion. Some people can try this, but I think telling commercial entities that they should do something the more expensive way to make you feel better when there is a cheaper way available doesn't seem very practical, unless you think you can actually outlaw it or something.
The next big topics.
Yeah.
Big implementation AI generated porn.
Oh, well, I think AI generated porn, I guess. I hadn't thought of that, but that would seem like yeah. Anyway.
The internet traffic is like the majority is porn, right? So,
Well, I don't know if the majority of traffic is porn, but it's certainly a big business. And yes, doing it with AI would seem to have some advantages. It seemed to be better for the health of the workers. Anyway, but that would seem, that might be a good market. Anyway, so Microsoft Azure's API management service has serious flaws that are pretty impressive. There are server-side request forgery flaws, like kind of even talking about in class here, so you can, and an unrestricted file upload functionality, so they can send requests and access internal Azure assets, bypass web application firewalls. So you've got the front end and the back end and a proxy in between, and you can bypass these things with requests that are misunderstood at the server to come from an authorized user.
You should use Burp to try it.
Perhaps, yes. You have to see if there's attack code available. And you have to somehow get this thing set up, which I think is not free. But yeah. Anyway, also, this is probably really important for many users. 3 Mac info stealers have launched since the start of this year. It's only been 4 months. And these are products that steal all this information from the Mac. So this means that people are successfully getting control of Macintosh machines. And after that, there's so many getting exploited that now they're making post-exploitation tools to steal the data from your Mac. So this would suggest everybody needs to start running antivirus on their Mac and being aware that your chance of getting compromised is probably higher than it used to be. Anyway.
That's why Apple keep on putting updates.
Well, yeah, there are updates, but a lot of people don't put on the Apple updates promptly. There's a couple more. Oh, yeah, this one is actually pretty important. All right, so Google is now supporting passkey sign-ins. You create something called a passkey, and you do not need a password. So I don't know exactly how it works, and it would be good to try this and find out. When I put this article on Mastodon, I already had someone comment that it does not have a way to move your passkey to another device or to back it up anywhere in case you lose your device or something. So apparently there are limits, but apparently somehow you install this thing called a passkey, and somehow you can log in without a password. So when signing in with a passkey, it will ask you to complete a second authentication step, be it a fingerprint scan or screen lock PIN, to ensure it's you. So It sounds good. The idea is to try to relieve people from having to have long passwords and remember them and such. And it would be interesting to try this and see how it works. Lyft is almost dead. I didn't know it was this bad, but Lyft's finances are terrible. Their stock price is now $11. They went public in 2019 at $72 a share. That's pretty bad. So they don't seem to be able to survive with the competition of Uber. I'm not sure Uber ever made a profit either. I think both Lyft and Uber were venture capital funded and ran a loss leader and never actually made it profitable, which is a fairly common thing internet businesses have done. And we'll see, they certainly snarl up traffic everywhere and probably increase the amount of pollution. So might be good if they go away. But anyway, this I was amazed at. So there's something called an F, Trusted Platform Module. A normal Trusted Platform Module is the chip that holds the cryptographic keys on a Windows machine to enforce BitLocker encryption. And this FTPM is a firmware TPM that you can activate through BIOS. And that, I'm not quite sure what the point of it is, but apparently it's got a serious security flaw of the type that you see in hardware hacking. You can glitch it with a power supply. A glitch, which is what you can use to break into hardware things. This sparked controversy when Microsoft made it mandatory for installing and receiving official updates. That's TPM. Anyway, the attack method involves a voltage fault injection attack where you manipulate the power supply, and it can force the Zen CPUs to let attackers into the firmware. And there's another one that's a simpler attack. And these leak the data, including the key, out of the so-called Trusted Platform Module. So whatever depends on this FTPM is very insecure. And the part that's not clear to me is exactly what kind of systems would be using the FTPM instead of the older TPM. But it's an important attack to be aware of. All right, let me stop this recording.